And he's like, well, what's the other 1%? I said, you're going to see that. Now, I'm here representing United for Liberty. What is United for Liberty? United for Liberty is an organization mainly based out of Anchorage. It was founded about 3 years ago. It was co-founded with Mr. David Cuddy and Mr. Michael Chambers. Michael Chambers is the former chair of the Alaska Libertarian Party. And those that know me know that I was the president and CEO of Conservative Patriots Group, so we put a libertarian and a conservative together. Well, that usually doesn't happen. But we sat down and we talked more about what we agree on than what we disagree on. United for Liberty, it's just a big umbrella. There's all kinds of groups underneath it, Second Amendment, Oath Keepers, Midnight Sun. I know representatives from this organization come up to it. I know that I've seen Candy up there. It's just a big umbrella where we sit and talk. We find out what we agree on and how we can help each other. That's United for Liberty. And I'm going to give you a little background so that you understand where we're at right now. Last year, you know that there was we were having budget problems also. United for Liberty did a citizens resolution and sent it down to the legislators and said, hey, we want you to get to this 4.5, which was ICER's number last year, $4.5 billion budget. We have got to cut the budget. You know, to put us on a glide path to a sustainable budget, and this is where we need to start. Legislator says, hey, great idea. However, you're a little late in the game getting it down to us. And two, where are we going to cut? Don't just tell me cut. We want to see $4.5 billion. Tell me where we should be able to cut. So starting early last year, or actually mid last year, taking ICER's number of 4.5, we had to have a hard number. And I'm not knocking on ICER or anything else because their number moved just a little bit, but we had to go with a hard number. We've been doing research on this for 8 or 9 months. They broke it up into groups, and there were about 5 of us that were committee chairs, and we oversaw 5 different organizations within the government. Make sure I'm not skipping anything here. If you want to get a copy of this budget proposal, UFL Alaska, www.uflalaska.com. It's over 100 pages. That's why I didn't print it out and bring copies. I'm retired, so I can't really afford that. And Michael Chambers got called down to Juneau to present this. And I got an email from him earlier. He forwarded an email to me from, I think, Senator Berta Gardner. Or is that representative or senator? Senator Berta Gardner. She actually sent an email to him saying thank you because it was very detailed and very specific. It's not, oh, cut just to this or cut, you know, $4.5 billion, don't care how you get there. Willy-nilly cuts are what got us, what should have gotten some commissioners in trouble this past year with some of their comments. Again, I'm not going to cover everything in here, okay? And I'm not going to compare, I'm not going to discount ICER's budget plan because it's actually a good plan, and this was actually based off of their model from last year. The recommendations that we have in our budget plan are not going to get us to a balanced budget. Just not going to. In order to balance a budget, your revenues and your spending have to be the same. Okay? And when you look at your revenues, do you count the permanent fund? But let me digress here for just a moment. I thought Brad was going to hit this. Brad, if I say something that's incorrect, please correct me. All right? Most of you understand how the permanent fund works. You hear the term the corpus. The corpus is the main permanent fund. And every year, they make investments. Money made off those investments are put down in the earnings reserve. Then over here, we have our oil royalties that we get and mineral rights that we get from states selling our oil, etc. That also goes down into the earnings reserve. We have another savings account. Kind of give me a look here. Okay, we have another account over here which is called the Constitutional Budget Reserve, which was established. That's basically our rainy day account. Betwixt these two accounts right now, we have about $13 billion in it. That was billion with a B. And the corpus, which is the main permanent fund, was about $53 billion. I know we lost some with the stock market kind of jumping all over the place, but generally, and I looked at Brad because, again, he does this for a living, and this is like, I'm moonlighting at night doing this. So that tells you how much money we have. Now, the government normally goes to the Constitutional Budget Reserve to pull out money they need if there's a deficit. And a lot of what we've been hearing is people say, go ahead and take it out of the earnings, take it out of the permanent fund earnings. Go back a little bit more. Back to the earnings reserve. From the earnings reserve, money is taken out for inflation proofing, put back in to the corpus to make sure that it still grows a little bit every year. Percentage, I'm not exactly sure what, but I know that money goes back in. Then there's a calculation that figures out what your permanent fund is going to be, what your dividend is going to be. Calculate based on number of Alaskans, and there's a long formula. I don't know it. I know someone that does, but I don't know it. And then it pays out to the dividend to all those that are authorized to have it, sign up for it, etc. And what's left there is called the earnings reserve. Am I tracking so far, Brad?
Yep.
Okay. I sat and I listened to Louise McGuire's bill, and I heard everyone say, you know, let's tap into the permanent fund earnings reserve, the earnings. Okay. In order to get in there, it takes a simple majority. They can already do it. It's just politically incorrect because it's they call it the permanent fund earnings reserve. People think that it's taken out of their PFD. No, your dividend comes out before they touch it. So it's already there. And they have a constitutional budget reserve, which they can access, but that requires a 3/4 majority vote. Kind of what we got stuck on last year and had to throw some stuff in there in order to get that 3/4 vote. So right now, this year, we can go straight to the earnings reserve after everyone has gotten their permanent fund. If there's, well, we know there's enough in there because it's about $6 billion before we put this year's in it. And we could even pay for the governor's bloated $5.2 billion budget, which we're not going to do. Okay, so that was just kind of a once-over on the permanent fund, on what it is, how it works, and you hear some of these terms, the corpus, which is the main investments, the $53 billion-ish that we have, and then you have the earnings reserve, oil revenue, and then you have the constitutional budget reserve. Now, currently he's asking for, like I said, $5.3 billion. The target for our project, our analysis, our model, 4.5. 4.5 billion, and that is not, we don't consider that sustainable. We actually have a 3-year glide path. I took 4 areas, being commerce, fish and game, DOT, and corrections, and I put them on a glide path to hit 2006 levels, like Brad said, plus inflation and population. Now, the numbers for inflation and population were a little bit varied. Some are saying we've seen anywhere from 22% to 30, almost 40%. Okay, now I've used different numbers and I've come up somewhere in between there also. But the bottom line is 4.5 billion for FY17, 4.2 billion for FY18, and 3.8 for FY19. That's our 3-year plan. Now understand that this plan was developed 9 months ago, before a lot of things have started changing. And we set up our plan based on $40 a barrel oil. Okay? Anyone tell me what A&S closed at yesterday? 32 and some change. Not WTI or Brent, but A&S. If you go to revenue or tax, their webpage. I've got the link on my phone.
Tax is a part of revenue.
So you can go there and you can see what it closed the previous day. So, and that's I think the 4th or 5th highest it's been since the beginning of the year. So the UFL model is a little more conservative than the other plan. But we feel $40 is reasonable, and again, we can adjust fire. If it goes up higher, then you know we can adjust the model. But we've been working on this and we wanted to have a hard number to start with. With that number, we work backwards, showing how we're going to get there. So basically, we're looking at cutting $1.5 billion in the next 3 years. Because you can't take it all at once. It's too big of a shock in the economy. You can fire every state employee and still only, recoup maybe $1 billion. And you can't fire every state employee, because there are necessary services that are out there. But what we're trying to focus on is what is constitutionally mandated. What does the Constitution, the Alaska Constitution, say that they have to provide and we have to spend money on? Yeah, it's very specific. Within this 1.5 billion, just some of the highlights I'm gonna hit, because like I said, this is over a 100-page document. And I see I'm putting people to sleep already, and it's only gonna get worse if I go into all the details. Medicaid options, you know that we have the best Medicaid, the Cadillac plan we offer to Alaskans. Now, we need to cut that down and give them what, you know, what is mandated vice what is nice to have. And there's $200 million right there. There's over 120 boards and commissions, 3,200 nonprofits that are receiving some form of state assistance. Medicaid expansion, we already have 165,000 Alaskans on Medicaid already before Medicaid expansion. And I know that I've been bothering the project manager for Medicaid expansion, mainly because I don't like it. And he's been giving me numbers, and they actually have a dashboard up on their website now saying how many people have enrolled, how much money we've got, and this, that, and the other. And I'm not too impressed by it. Okay, with the Cub, we're seeing the close the Washington Monument scare. And Michael uses that term, basically playing politics with people's lives. The Glen Highway not getting sanded. They said, oh, due to budget cuts. That was the beginning of the budget year.
I know.
How can you have budget cuts already? In my opinion, I'd have fired the commissioner right there on the spot, even if he didn't do it, even if he didn't make the comment. He can't control his people.
That's right.
They have an obligation to protect lives. And I guess that was a comment on Facebook. A comment on Facebook or Twitter, and I talk too much. That's kind of why I'm here. I should have been fired. That's an inappropriate comment. And we're seeing that with a lot of different, well, this is closing early, this is, you know, we can't do this because of budget cuts. You know, that's poor management. If the commissioner can't do it, I'm sure that I could ask anyone in here, okay, I need you to manage this. Say, okay. Again, I'm trying not to get too in-depth because there's a lot of details in there, and I'll delve into some of the details on the areas that I covered on specific and targeted cuts that I put out there and why I put them out there. Now, within this model that or this project, it's not a bill per se. All it is it's guideline. It's a tool that legislators can use to trim the budget. It's not, again, this is targeted. We're telling them specifically. There are also ideas in there that you go through and you look and see what is constitutionally required. That's your first budget. Constitutional budget right here. It's not in the Constitution that we have to do it. It doesn't go in there. You pass that budget first. Then you have a second budget, which is the, I guess, nice to have or secondary, not necessarily required by the Constitution, but are things that we probably should have. But you pass that first budget so that you fund government to do what we expect them to do and what we pay them to do. And that second budget is a little more flexible. The first one isn't, the second one is. And you pass them separately. That way they can stay in session, well, I don't want them to stay in session all the time down there. They can come to Anchorage so we can yell at them.
That's right.
But the second, you have the government funded to do what we expect it to do. There's no threats of government shutdown. There's no, you know, scare tactics. There's a lot of fear-mongering going on, and fear-mongering is appropriate at times, and this is not the time. Again, what is the purpose of government? What do we expect them to do? The state budget is not reflective of limited government, because that's what, if you talk to our legislators, they say limited government, limited government. The budget isn't reflective of it. It has been bloated by 2 Republican governors who have said they supported limited government. These other voices are an extraordinary testament to a commitment of deep rationale, conservative values that actually does in Juneau what the candidates promised to vote. Actually, that made no sense. Basically, yeah, you know what I'm trying to say. They say they're conservatives, and they go down there and you know, hold them accountable. Hold them accountable. Now I want to get into some actual specific percentages of changes. I have 5 minutes left, or I've gone 5 minutes. 5 minutes left. Okay. Got my own timer over there. Well, let me know when I hit 1 minute, because I want to hit some critical things here. Department of, if you look at FY06 budget, plus inflation, plus, or adding in inflation and population, corrections budget has grown by 48%, from 155 million to 281 million. Health and Human Services has increased by 80% to over $1 billion. And we know that our top two drivers are education and
Health and Social Services.
HHS, yes, thank you, sorry. Transportation, one of the areas that I had, has increased by 105% in the last 10 years.
For what?
Good question. Because we let them. No, let me rephrase that. We didn't let them. They lulled us to sleep.
What percentage of that is federally funded?
No, that's state unrestricted general funds. I don't mess with anything. All these numbers I'm talking to you about tonight are unrestricted general funds. These aren't designated funds. These aren't federal funds. These aren't matching funds. These are straight up. Give me just a few more minutes and then I'll take some questions. I just wanted to highlight that how much the budget has increased over the last 10 years. And if you look at the population rate in the state of Alaska is population increase in the state of Alaska is approximately 14%. How does government, one department within government, grow 105% when the population has only increased by 14%? And with DOT, I don't think we have that many more roads than we did 10 years ago.
20 years.
And they're
I'm
plowing,
only
and
going
they're
10 years. We're not
sanding
gonna,
less.
let's not go back. Let's not go back too far.
Is that 100 million over the population inflation already added in?
With the population and inflation already figured in, okay, for Department of Transportation, the their FY 2006 budget was 98 million. If you increase, adding in inflation and population, it would be 120 million. Currently, there's 247. Exponentially higher. And again, we're getting into numbers and in the nuts and bolts. I suggest you go and download this document and look at it because of some of the specifics. We talked about that, we're running out of time. Let's talk about it. Go? Okay. Now, of the three plans, and Brad talked about this, and this plan does nothing to touch the PFD or taxation. Right now. Things can be fluid. The governor's plan, Lisa McGuire's bill, the Hawker, all of them, they want to either mess with the PFD or move immediately into taxation. I have to agree with Brad that, you know, the sky is not falling yet. It's raining a little bit, and we need to start preparing, but this year we don't need to make those deep, hard cuts. We're only asking the governor to cut $700 million from his current proposal, whereas he wants, you know, only to cut $200 million in the budget but anyway, Brad's plan, or the ICER plan and the United for Liberty plan, they don't cap the PFD at $1,000, and if he had capped it this year, we got what, $2,027, and there was approximately 660, anyway, I did the math on it. If he had capped it at $1 million, if he had capped it at $1,000, that additional $1,027 that we were supposed to receive, that's $750 million taken out of our economy. And when Brad talks about staying within the economy, you look at it, and we'll use this as a model here. I come in here, I spend my money. Money goes to the owner. Owner pays the cook or the waiter. The waiter goes and pays their GCI, okay, bad example. Utility bill. The utility company then pays their employee. They say that money spent locally circulates 7 times. So you're talking, if you say 7 times at $750 million, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. And that's the amount of money that would have been taken out of Alaskans' pockets, because again, the majority, as Brad said, is spent here. Neither one of the plans are income tax, state taxes, no fuel taxes, and no school head tax. We're not doing any taxation. Now next year, if our situation has not improved, if we find out more about the gas line, you know, we'll be a little more fluid. But like Brad said, you have to make decisions based on information you have at the time. At the time that we were developing the UFL plan, 4.5 was the number, and we stuck with it. And again, I'm for it, because then you're gonna get at least, you're gonna have to pass my number in order to get there. Okay, I explained how the PFD works. All right, all these are on a gradual, no, I'm not gonna actually get into this. It's, like I said, this is over a 3-year plan. So we're cutting 1.5 from specific areas. Let's say transportation, I'm gonna hit that one real quick because that was one of my areas. Marine ferry system,
We need that new ferry.
6 days, running 6 days a week to the same places 3 times a day. My proposal, you cut their budget or you change that, take $20 million out of that, and now they're only running once a day, 3 times a week. Someone says, well, what if someone's gonna get to an appointment? I said, do they come up to Willow to pick me up to take me to my appointment? I don't live in Willow, but if they did. You see what I'm saying? I still have to find a way of getting there. Now, out in the villages, because I know my wife and her mom are from villages, they do fly, Indian Health Services, Native Clinic, whatever, flies them in, etc. But, it's not like, oh, I forgot to pick something up from Walmart, let's hop on the ferry. That's not how it goes. If you're out there, more than likely you've planned ahead, and it's more of an ah crap moment than it is, hey, let's go for a joyride. All right, I'm going to conclude because I want to leave time for Brad also.
You have to take the question.
Oh, I have to take questions first. Mike,
Was there any talk of privatization?
I looked into privatization, especially when it came to corrections.
I'm talking like the ferry system, corrections.
It has to make money.
Okay.
And when you look at the ferry system, and let's say it's a $200 ticket, 20% is paid by the individual, the other 80% is paid by the state. How are you going to make money in that?
No.
There's not a money make. There's no way to make money. It's a money pit. So what we need to do is we need to relook at it and say, okay, cost versus benefit. Privatization, I don't know of any company that would, they want a subsidy from the government, and that's counterintuitive. That's what we're trying to avoid right now. Yes, sir.
One of the things that has been talked about in this whole budget thing is capital projects. That's been one of the things that's been a driver of the Alaska economy. So what happens on that as far as?
The assumption is that is going to be, Brad, correct me if I'm wrong, is that's going to be reduced to minimal, very minimal.
Yeah, I think capital budget's going forward, we're gonna see numbers around 250 million.
For capital budget.
And what does that do to the economy?
It drains money out of the economy, it does, but frankly, capital dollars have the least impact of all sorts of all dollars on the economy, because most of those dollars, most of the capital dollars go outside the state's buying goods and materials.
The only thing
It will have some effect on some employees, but not as much as if we try to keep the capital budget high by taking money out of the PFD to support the capital budget.
I heard the other night, last week, the governor was talking and somebody else, that the capital projects, he was basically saying, well, we can keep those going, we'll just have to bond them, because that's the driving force behind the economy.
gosh.
Okay, I'm gonna
So we're
use
gonna run the economy off of borrowed money?
and I'm gonna, yeah, it's, and I looked this up today to make sure I got it right. It's the Whippy analogy. When I say Whippy, I say Whippy from Popeye. I'll buy a hamburger today and pay for it next Tuesday. Yeah, maybe. And in this case, it may not happen. And what a lot of the recommendations that I put in there were forward funding in the budget. If you want to do something, forward funded. Plan out this year, okay, this is what we're going to be used for this. We're going to hang on to it, we're not going to spend it, and then the next year we're going to ask for another little portion, but at some point you've got to get that project done. Not just all of a sudden, hey, let's bond and go, $10 million in debt to build something that, that, again, cost versus benefit, return on investment. Yes, sir.
What's the name of your plant? What do you call it? And who have you distributed it to?
Michael Chambers is down in Juneau right now. He just gave it to all the legislators.
Yes.
He personally went down there and handed it to them and talked to them about it. It's United for Liberty, and it's, like I said, it's a group. There's probably about 25 to 50 of us that were actually knee-deep in numbers, myself being one of them, that found places to cut. Not say 4.5, make it happen. It's 4.5. You take this much from this area in these programs. this much from this area in these programs. So it was a very detailed plan.
So when
Did
we-
I answer your question? I'm sorry.
Yes, when we contact all 60 of our legislators and the governor, we're safe now to say, would you please refer to the plan that
United for-
And as we make our comments, I don't think we,
They're gonna know that if you say, make reference to United for Liberty, they're gonna know exactly what you're talking about. Yes, sir.
Most of the states and stuff that have had the same dilemma that Alaska's facing, some of them are pretty even more dire, had to renegotiate collective bargaining, right to work things. It seems like that's an area that no one ever talks about. And when I confront legislatures and stuff, it's like,
That's the elephant in the room, that's what they don't wanna talk about. But it may come to that. You know, when you talk about, and you're negotiating contracts, I guess a lot of the contracts, and I'm not an expert on this by any stretch of the imagination, that the federal minimum wage, this, that, or the other, no. These commissioners need to negotiate in the best interest of Alaskans, not themselves, and not necessarily their employees. You know, unions at the time that they were established were great, we needed them, okay? They've outlived their usefulness. When it comes to public sector unions, private sector, it doesn't matter to me, because I'm not paying for it. As a taxpayer, I am paying for public sector unions. Okay, Beth?
I'm gonna go first, okay, Kate, because you've already asked a question.
Yep.
So do you address right to work? Do you address wage freezes? Do you address cutting positions in them that are empty and
Okay, thanks for bringing that up.
supposedly frozen?
Okay, when it comes to hiring freezes, the governor instituted a hiring freeze for all areas except for like 4. Corrections was one of them. And my comment to that was, implement a hiring freeze. If you've gotten by with them this long, you don't need them. My recommendation was also pay freezes. Freeze hiring and freeze pay, period. Now, when it comes to, you said something else that I want to.
Eliminating the positions.
Oh, eliminating position. There is or was approximately 2,000 ghost positions existing in state government. They were authorized 26,000 employees in the state. That's how many they said they had on the books. If you look at who was getting paid, well, 24,000 and some change. That was another, if you do a hiring freeze, then you don't get to fill those positions and you're not going to get paid for them. But what happens is the departments take that money and they hang on to it. Then at the end of the year, it's like, hey, we got to spend money. That's not how you do it. If you can't budget your money, they expect us to budget our money. They need to do the same. And right to work, I agree with you wholeheartedly. I've given my opinion on that. There are,
No, is it in there?
no,
Okay.
not specifically.
Because they won't touch it.
Yeah, that's a political hot potato.
Go Ken.
Ken? Yes,
Has
ma'am.
anyone done the statistics on choice of healthcare and privatizing specifically that issue?
I do not know. HHS was not one of the areas that I had, so I cannot definitively say
Not only
yes
is
or
it
no.
state, teachers, every state employee's healthcare.
That, it would fall under HHS and Department of Administration.
HFS covers all state
Health and
employees?
Human Services deals with all healthcare in the state of Alaska. Now, administration or education may go into teachers because you're lumping all state employees and to include teachers and everybody together, whereas the state separates them, where you have teachers are, education, K through 12, and then you've got state corrections has their employees, then you have, it's,
Troopers.
yeah, you need to, and you're right, they all need to come
Alaska
together.
Policy Forum said that the money towards health care for teachers went through NEA, I don't know.
Yes, and
It goes through the
again,
unions. The
Yeah.
unions do their self, because I've been in that, and my husband's in it, and so the unions do their self-insurance thing.
yeah, so it's,
Yeah.
again, public sector unions, get out of there. Get them on the same policy or the same plan that all other state employees are on.
That's right.
Yes, sir.
Okay, now, I know at highways, it's a big thing you see all the time, but if you build a school or anything in this state, they've got that, what is it, 1% has to
Oh,
go?
1% per art.
Yeah. You have to have this something of beauty, or you gotta have the
Yep.
bike path. And the bike paths now are costing us almost as much as the road per month.
Agreed, agreed.
So, isn't that a cost savings? Or you got-
Well, I don't know if that's a
It is
federal
in there.
regulation.
It is in there. Cut the, I got to that page where it
Oh,
said,
good.
cut the 1% for art money.
Hallelujah.
And you all need to know that the federal government used to pay for bike paths.
They don't
And
anymore.
in the last transportation bill, they took it out.
That's right.
It really irritates me to be driving up the Parkside Lane, see that absolutely beautiful bike trail.
Well,
I see lots
They
of people
ride the
on it
road.
on weekends.
Yeah, they ride in the road
That's right,
instead.
you're right. They won't down the bike path.
In Anchorage, they want all the bike paths, but they do have a lot of accidents there, so I'm not gonna go there.
So,
Oh, that's the
thank you very much.
City.
Steve.